wondered if there's anything us guide dog users are hiding behind the scenes about our guide dogs. This is things that you wouldn't know about guide dogs. Grab a cup of tea and let's chat disability. Hey gorgeous, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have some absolutely fabulous humans with me on the phone. I've roped them in. Usually they're doing an amazing podcast called P.S. I'm Blind. There's Mariam, Agon and Kevin. If you want to know more about them, please check the links in the description box. They will have all sorts of goodies there, so please pause the video. If you want to know more about them, click the links. Hello everyone, Mariam, let's go first to you. How are you, darling? Talk a bit about yourself. What do you do? Who are you? Where are you in the world?
Hi, so I'm Mariam. I'm from England. As you can probably tell. I'm so I'm just about to finish an undergraduate degree in sociology and politics. I have a guide dog called Chara, who I've had since the very end of October 2018. I think that's probably the most interesting thing.
Perfect, thank you. Agon, what about you, darling?
Hi, I'm Agon, as Lucy said. I live with Mariam, and I am a graduate, so I have a degree in politics. I graduated earlier this year. I have a guide dog called Carmen, which you might be able to hear in the background right now is panting because of the thunderstorm.
Yeah.
She's a 6-year-old chocolate lab, and she's mostly adorable, but has a few quirks that I kind of like and hate. I wouldn't really change her for the world.
Oh, that's so cute. And Kev, over to you.
Hello everyone, my name is Kevin. I live in Northampton. I'm originally from Colombia. I'm a musician, I play the piano, and I also work in digital marketing.
And all of you are podcast hosts. You've all forgotten that. But
yeah,
you're brilliant.
Yeah, we haven't plugged our own.
Don't worry, I did it for you. And I will be on there soon. So hopefully we can time it so these will go out together. That would be absolutely brill. We're talking about guide dogs today and everything about that you wouldn't necessarily know about being a guide dog owner. I sort of pitched this idea to them and said, please come on my channel, it would be so good. Because we all have guide dogs, and as Kev will tell you, he has his own experience about being a guide dog owner. So I think over to you, Kev, first. What is your experience with a guide dog, and when did you first get your guide dog?
I first got my guide dog probably in about 2013. He was called Pickles. And he was always getting himself into little pickles. I always used to think it was really funny when there was one time he did steal a couple of pickles off the floor because he was really good at like crawling on his belly and just grabbing food when I didn't notice. So that was always quite funny. But he was great at his job, and he was a real cheeky chappy. But he was the laziest dog I've ever met in my life. Like, if I didn't take him out anywhere, his favourite pastime was to just flop on his bed and sleep all day. One day he did it for about 12 hours or more than that. And I was like, wow, this dog is amazing. But yeah, he was a good worker. And I had him for about 6 months. And then unfortunately, he had to get withdrawn because he had some behavioural issues, which was really sad, actually, because, you know, that was the kind of what they say guide dogs is 6 months to a year is what it takes to build up that partnership. So we were starting to do really well, and then all of that happened. And it took me a while to get over that because you do bond with the dogs a lot. But luckily, you know, after a few years, I've reconsidered and I'm back on the list. And I'm waiting for another four-legged friend, yeah. So that would be great.
And obviously, there is maybe a misconception, being a guide dog owner myself, that Pickles wouldn't necessarily go for the pickles in the cupboard, but you know what's that about? And you know, Labradors can be very. You know.
He was a lab retriever cross, but he loved his food, and there was a really funny moment where we had a bin. You know those bins with lids on them. You know the kind of push-in lids that you push down and then you put the food in. And anyway, he snuck into the kitchen, dived for the bin for some bizarre reason, and got his head stuck in the lid. So then all I just hear It's this animal shuffling towards me. I'm like, what's wrong with him? Why is he walking really slowly? But he was just like shuffling towards me with his tail down and feeling a bit sorry for himself. And the lid was just all over his eyes. So he was like, oh, he looked so sorry for himself. It was really funny.
I remember you telling me he had a bit of a burger incident as well, didn't he?
Yes, that was quite funny. We got at a Burger King with some friends, and then we went back, to my friend's house to finish it off. And I said, "Oh, can you just, look after this, make sure that the burger's okay?" And I just sort of put it down on the sofa or something. I just had to go to the loo. And then next thing we know, my friend looked away, and Pickles just jumped on it and just devoured the entire burger in 3 seconds flat. I think he loved it.
Yeah, see, this is what we have to remember, Guide dogs are dogs. They're very clever dogs, but they are still dogs at the end of the day. And us guys, as guide dog users, and have to learn how to be guide dog trainers and constantly keep up their training to let the guide dog know at the end of the day that's their job. And they're on harness at one point. They absolutely have amazing fun with us, but yeah, that's we have to keep going with it, otherwise they might lose their training. Agon, over to you then. Talk about your lovely doggy and how did you start out in life with your guide dog?
Okay, so I basically, before I got Carmen, excuse me, before I got Carmen, I actually never had a pet in my life before, so it was quite scary, but also exciting, because I never really had interaction with dogs. I was just like, I saw them on TV, and I saw other people's guide dogs, and they were quite cute. And I remember, so my dog, I just remember you saying, Kevin, just now that your dog was very laid back. My dog is laid back squared. So the first time I met her, she came into my room, basically, and as the guide dog instructor was basically saying, don't worry if she doesn't settle down, if she's stressed for a few days, it's fine, that's natural. And as she said that, Carmen didn't even circle the room, didn't even sniff around, she just went to her bed and flopped down. And I was like, oh yeah, she seems so stressed. But,
yeah,
I think we just sort of learnt to be with each other as we continued with the training. One major thing that I love about her is, I know a lot of people have problems with spending their dogs and getting their dogs to go in the pen, or their dogs being very particular about where they do their number twos. But Carmen's just even more laid back. Like, I just put her somewhere, she does it, and then she's just very, very easy to train, I would say, very easy to get used to. So I think I've had quite a lucky ride with her. There's one thing though that I have to mention about her, is she's got a bit of a fetish for squirrels and cats. So if she's on harness, I remember one time, basically if she's on harness and she sees a squirrel or a cat, she will bolt for them no matter what. She would just go, all training gone. And one time I was walking on the way to uni. It was very muddy. It was quite an embarrassing story. I was about 3/4 of the way to the building where I was supposed to go.
yeah.
And she saw a squirrel or something. She bolted. I slipped, landed on my backside in the mud, and I had to go all the way back home and change my clothes because I was a state, honestly. But it was one of them moments where I was angry at first, but after 10 minutes, I just burst out laughing. I was like, it was such a nightmare.
Yeah, you're like, what, your teacher, why were you late for the lecture? Oh, my dog tried to chase a squirrel.
yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how many times. Because I was so young as well, getting Olga, I mean, some lampposts have been slightly, careered into. There's some pigeon incidences, She's not perfect, and she's not going to be at the end of the day. They're living animals, aren't they, Agon? So, and they're so clever, but what would you tell anyone out there that is just first having their guide dog there, that, they're thinking, wow, they're going to be basically a sat-nav for me, it's going to be the best thing, which, there's a lot of perks, but talk to me about how you found it at the beginning with Carmen.
So, at the beginning, it was a bit of a learning curve, just figuring out. So at first, actually, I went through a phase where I was like, oh, this is great, this is really good, she's doing everything perfectly. And it turned out it was just she was doing it because she was with the instructor. The trouble started when I actually took her home. I took her home and I started, because at the end of the day, they're not only living animals, but they're babies when you get them. They're really, really young. So at some point, they're going to start testing boundaries. They're going to start saying, okay, what can I do? What should I do? And so it's important to basically, to anyone who gets a new guide dog and is excited and thinks they're going to be a complete sat nav, in a lot of ways, they're going to change the way you maneuver. They're going to give you a lot of freedom, but they do need a lot of care. They do need a lot of attention, I would say. They need to keep up their training even after you qualify. Maybe not as strict. I know guide dogs say you keep up your training very, very strictly, but I would say it's comparable to when you get a driving license. So to pass your test, you have to do everything by the book perfectly. But after a few years, you and your dog sort of learn off each other, and you develop your own style, I'd say. So Carmen's got 2 modes, if you know what I mean. Basically, there's the mode where she guides me, so I tell her where to go. I have to know where I'm going. I go, find the curb. She finds the curb. I go left. She finds steps. But then she's got almost an autopilot mode, where if there's someone in front of me and I'm going the same way as them, or I'm walking with friends, I literally just tell her to follow, and that's your job done, basically. She just follows. She stops at all the right places and stuff. And if you can teach a dog to do that, it's really, really useful and handy, especially in places like train stations with assistant staff. You can just tell them to follow the staff. Or if you're in a shopping centre with people and it's really busy, I think it's better to have something that the dog can maybe lock onto to help you.
Yeah, they're good at tracking, aren't they? And,
you know what? I think it's really important that you both are a partnership, and that only comes with time.
Yeah.
And I totally echo what you're saying, Egan. I think it's really important, and just bringing Mariam into the discussion, because we need to know her amazing thoughts about all of this. Mariam, tell us your story about how you started with your lovely doggy.
Yeah, so I was on the waiting list for almost 2 years. I think it was 23 months. And I was just starting my 3rd year of university, and I was, starting my dissertation. And I was actually sort of thinking, should I ring guide dogs? Because I'm not sure if I should have a guide dog in my 3rd year, or should I sort of maybe pause myself on the waiting list? And before I'd made a decision on that, I got a call to say I'd been possibly matched, and then all thought of possibly pausing myself on the waiting list went out my head, and I said, oh my god, yes, I want to meet the dog. I was just too excited to possibly think about not having a guide dog at that point. So I told myself I could do it, do guide dog training and do my 3rd year at uni. So I went ahead, had the match meeting. She was, she's a very excitable dog. On the first meeting, actually, when they brought her to my house, she sort of wandered around the flat, and we were sitting there chatting. I was sitting there chatting with the 2 trainers, actually, that came with her, which I think is a bit unusual. And as we were chatting, Chara had gone into the kitchen. This is the first day that she's visited my flat, and she put her paws up on the sink to have a nosy in the sink in the kitchen. And the trainer instantly sort of growled at her, and I was like, oh my god, because I didn't realise what was happening. I couldn't see what she was doing. I just heard the trainer growl at her, and thought, oh my god, what's happening? And I had to explain to me, like, she'd put her paws up on the kitchen sink.
Oh, bless her.
So I knew she was a cheeky one from the get-go. We went for our match meeting walk, and yeah, it was a bit scary, to be honest. When you use a cane, you can feel every little bump in the pavement before your feet go over it. With a guide dog, you don't have that, so you have to quickly learn to sort of be prepared and sort of lift your toes, kind of thing. And it was a bit scary. She was very fast, but at the same time, I loved it, and I said that I was prepared to go ahead, and they said, that they thought it was a match. So I went and I did my training in a hotel, and it was great. It was very challenging, but very enjoyable. And I've never really looked back. I mean, we've had our challenges. She's a Labrador Retriever cross, golden, and she's really cheeky. She's a great worker, but in the house, she's really cheeky. For food is her weakness, as it is with many dogs. And to begin with, we did have lots of incidences with her, trying to jump up on the table when she thought we weren't looking or we wouldn't notice. So it was a lot of, telling her off and pulling her back off the table, or what else was there? But it's a big change for them as well. I mean, it's quite stressful. They go from puppy walker to trainer to different boarders in the first 18 months to 2 years of their life. So it's really stressful. So, of course, they're going to act up. No matter how good their training is, it's going to take time for them to get to know you and realise, this is my person now. This is who I depend on.
Yeah, and I think it is that first bedding in, if you like, section of their training when they're just trying to sort of test the boundaries and know who you are, and they're like, who is this human? I don't know whether I like you yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I don't know, definitely with Olga, I was so young when I went blind, and when I got her I was 18, and I never really thought beyond, obviously the trauma of going blind and then getting her, and I think the thought of having a guide dog back then was, she's going to guide me places, and then I didn't really have a thought beyond that. I didn't know that I would be the girl with the dog at school, or the girl that's go walking to sixth form and waiting for her dog to poop before she goes out the front door. Was there anything was there any misconceptions or thoughts that you had before getting a guide dog that were completely proved wrong or opposite?
I mean, I did have a bit of experience with sort of blind friends and their guide dogs. So I think misconceptions like they're like a navigation system or they know where they're going. I already knew they were misconceptions, but I guess what I really wasn't expecting is just, I guess, any sort of cheeky, naughty behaviour in the house. I really wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting, how tired I would be. I don't know if I sound a bit dramatic, but I just remember being really tired. We were training all day, on and off. We were walking for only like maybe 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes at a time. But overall, it was like 3 hours or something in a day, or 4 hours. And then in the house, it wasn't like I could just come back and just chill out and rest, because she wanted to, chew something up or rip something up or jump up on the table to check any food. So I was constantly alert, and I just remember being so tired. So I guess that's the kind of misconception, that they're amazing and well behaved all of the time, whether they're on harness or not.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was my experience too, Mariam. Going into that training and doing that for so many weeks, it is hard on you because we're basically trainers now. We're basically dog handlers, and just opening that up to the floor. Agon, Kev, do you have anything to add?
I would say one thing that I didn't expect before I got a guide dog, and I don't know if this sounds a bit silly or not, but I didn't expect how emotionally reliant the dog will be on you, for example. So going back to my training days, this was, I think, the third night I had her, the fire alarm went off, and it terrified her. My dog is a very, very jumpy dog. Any loud noises, thunder, fire alarms, even loud TV sometimes sets her off, and she was just barking and trembling. And so we went out with the fire alarm and came in and everything, and I just spent like a good 15-20 minutes calming her down and getting her settled, and it just shows to you that you rely on them for guiding, so to get you from A to B safely, but they rely on you for every single aspect of their life, more or less. You have to make sure they're comfortable, you have to make sure that they're confident, they're stable, they're enjoying their job as well, and I just didn't understand how important that was, I guess, to keep the dog happy and to actually, because I knew obviously they talked about, and I've stroked dogs before and I've had like playtime and cuddles with dogs, but it actually is a very important part of having a guide dog to give it that attention and that love, because at the end of the day, unlike a pet dog where some people, for example, leave their dog at home when they go to work all day, this dog is with you 24/7, so it's almost like an extension of yourself. And
Oh, yeah.
if the dog's happy, you're happy. And also, they play off of your emotions, don't you? If you're having a stressful day, they're having a stressful day, and vice versa. If they're not feeling confident that day, you'll feel that. You'll feel that in the harness, and you'll feel that in the way they walk, and it will make you feel unconfident. So it's almost kind of like syncing emotions with the dog. I know that sounds very...
No, I totally get you, Agon. You know, we see eye to eye here.
Yeah.
Because without Olga, I don't know what my life would be anymore. You know, she's my child, she's my everything, you know, she guides me everywhere. That whole anxiety I had letting basically a 2-year-old, because that's what they are, guide you around, you know, all that goes out the window when you have this partnership. So there are cons when you first start, because it is hard, and it is hard losing your eyesight, but then having this fluffy, gorgeous bundle of fun looking at you, and then thinking, wow, they rely on me, I feel empowered because they rely on me, and then I rely on them. And it's I had this real problem with relying on people a lot when I first went blind. I felt like as if I was asking everyone everything all the time, and when I got Olga, suddenly, yes, I was relying on her, but she was relying on me. So yeah, I totally get you.
For me, that became really apparent when I think it was a day after I qualified. And I know it sounds really silly because, you know, I just woke up in the morning and I suddenly went, oh my gosh, I've qualified. I can actually go out for a walk on my own without having supervision with a trainer, you know, with the dog. And it was just so amazing to just walk around the block. And the thing is, when you're walking with a cane and you're VI, you're sort of thinking about, you're sweeping the cane. So that's a very physical action to cover your body. If it hits something, you've got to walk around it, and it's a very sort of, you know, hit and find out what's in front of you, hit something, walk around it. So it's a very physical process, and actually it can be quite stressful. But with a dog, they take a lot of that away. They're walking you around the obstacles. So obviously I was concentrating because I was focused on the dog and making sure that they were going where I wanted them to go. But I actually was walking down the street and I thought, I'm actually enjoying. I can see for the first time ever why people go for a walk to chill out. Because with a cane, you can't chill out with a walk. It's a very stressful experience. But you know, when people go to clear their head, I could actually do that with a guide dog, and that experience is still stuck with me, and I kind of miss that quite a lot, actually.
That's why you're on the list. Honestly, also, don't you think when you're sweeping a cane, it's like it snags on the pavement, and you've got a headache, and you're always thinking in front of you, and you're just like, oh my gosh, it's really annoying. And I mean, I'm talking from a guide dog user perspective here. I've had Olga for 6 years, so but
it's
Kev,
slower as well.
Yeah, it's slower. It is, and also I can actually talk to Ollie and be like, yay, hi, and we can just, you know, walk normally.
My problem is I left everyone behind because my dog was a bit of a racer. And everyone's like, Kevin, come back!
Chara.
You left us like way behind.
Yeah.
I love that. But Kev, also, I mean, this is maybe a bit inevitable that we talk about this, but every guide dog owner obviously has the prospect of maybe a lot, you know, far down the line, or maybe sooner than we might think, that, you know, they may retire, or they may, you know, maybe just have a bit of a hard time, you know, with working. You know, how did you deal with that? Because I know that happened to you and Pickle, didn't it?
Yeah, so, you know, the issue that happened, you know, he had to be withdrawn basically very, very quickly. And basically it all happened within about a day. So I went to work, and then this trainer came in the afternoon. It was completely unforeseen, and he had to go. And so it was, you know, I went into work with a guide dog, and then I had to walk home with a cane. And I just remember doing that walk being like, oh, this is so slow. Like, you know, that kind of fast walk, it felt pretty devastating at the time. And I think for a long time, the thing that really helped me was the thing that really helped me was other guide dog owners. So having spoken to people who had gone through it and them saying, this is a really difficult position to be in, but just try to look forward to your next dog, and I think the main thing was just talking about it, and now I'm just looking forward to it again. But obviously I'll never forget the dog, and you never do. They're always going to be a huge part of you, and I was only a guide dog owner for 6 months, so
Yeah, they're your eyes, they're your child. And the thing is that a guide dog, if anyone watching this and doesn't know that guide dogs get withdrawn, because this may be something that you don't know, they can get withdrawn for anything. I mean, another reason that Olga nearly got withdrawn was she actually got attacked. Our partnership was really new, and this bulldog came and attacked her, and I thought, wow, your hand is in your mouth at that point, because you're like, oh my gosh, am I going to have Olga? Is she going to be able to work again the way that she thought, or is she going to be traumatized from this incident? So, Pickle might have just had this time in his life where he just thought, no, Dad, I'm really sorry. It's not for me anymore. And you have to listen to them, and that's part of being a guide dog owner, is knowing what's best for them, even if it's not best for you at that point, because your mental health does do a backflip if you don't have them, because they're so part of your life. I'm just going to open that up to all you guys. Yeah, Kev, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And it's true that, sometimes the partnership, for whatever reason, it might not work. Maybe the dog just it isn't for them, because I do think, depending on the workload, every dog is different. That's basically what you got to factor in. And that's what I say to people. These dogs aren't machines. They're living, breathing animals, aren't they? They have their little quirks. They have their off days as well, and you've got to learn to work with those as well.
They have their own personalities, don't they?
Yeah.
And they are so different. Like Chara and Carmen live together, obviously, as Agon already mentioned. Me and Agon live together, and they're so different. Carmen's so laid back, and Chara is so excitable.
What is it like them living together? Because that's really cool.
Yeah, I think they really love living together. When Agon goes away, visits his parents with Carmen, I think Chara really does miss her, and Chara, I think, genuinely needs more attention from me when Carmen's not here, because they're not there to entertain each other. So she needs me to play with her more, maybe, than she does when Carmen's here. You talked about them being withdrawn, and Chara actually almost didn't make it as a guide dog, for the reason that she barked too much, which I'd never really heard of that before, a guide dog not making it because they bark too much. But apparently she just barked constantly. They'd be walking down the street with her and she'd just bark and bark and bark. Or they'd be sitting in a cafe or a meeting and she'd just bark, which obviously is just not okay when you want to be getting on with your life. But luckily, they trained out of her. She still obviously has a bark now and then. Of course she does. She's a dog. But she's never barked in harness. She's never really barked when we're out, I don't think, as far as I can remember. So I just thought that was really interesting.
Oh my gosh, Mariam, you've really reminded me of a time with Olga. I was visiting this uni when I was applying for law schools, and she saw this lion in the University of Westminster, and she just started, I was like, oh my gosh, and everyone around me was like, isn't that meant to be a guide dog? Are they not just perfect?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the other misconception, isn't it? They're just perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, they can't be doing that. Or as soon as a guide dog gets a little bit overexcitable, because sometimes it happens, especially when you take their harness off, and they go, ooh, they're a bit naughty, aren't they? They're not meant to be doing that. I'm like, well, you've just taken them off their harness. They're in relax mode,
Yeah.
And people need to sort of realise that.
They're so valuable, though, aren't they? They're so brilliant.
With Carmen as well, she her bark though, it sounds like a Rottweiler bark. Like it really sounds really, really vicious when she barks. She so it's quite scary if you don't know the dog to just one thing she hates as well is eye contact from people. So if someone look that she doesn't know, or random, like if I'm in a cafe or if I'm somewhere, if they walk towards her and look her in the eye, she'll bark at them, because she'll be like, oh, because it's an aggressive gesture, isn't it? To a dog, I think it's one of the most aggressive things you can do to a dog that you don't know, is just look at it dead in the eye. And yeah, she just reacts like by barking.
Oh, bless her. Yeah, no, this is the thing, and it's just what struck me there, Agon, the way you were talking about her. She's just your little girl, isn't she?
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
so
100%.
sweet. We just know everything about these dogs, don't we?
Yeah.
And it's, yeah. So, just open to the floor. What are your top tips to a new guide dog owner? What are the best things that have ever happened to you with a guide dog? And just anything else you have to add, Kev.
I basically just think, don't overthink it. Learn from the dog. You're gonna make mistakes. It's gonna be something that you're gonna learn together. But also feel free to ask questions. There's lots of guide dog owners out there. There's guide dogs as well that can give you support. But just don't expect that it's going to be perfect from day one. You're gonna get what you put into it. So if you put the hard work and you make sure that you keep up that training. When I first got Pickles, dogs are meant to stop at the curb. And for some reason, after we qualified, he decided that he just wouldn't bother doing that and would just walk off curbs because he couldn't be bothered to do it. So in the end, what the trainer had to tell me to do was that every single curb that he does that at, you're going to have to stop, turn him round and go back. And like from my house to the station, it was a 10-minute walk and it took about 40 minutes because he did it on every single one. But you know what? After that, he didn't do it again because he was so it's little things like that.
Those moments you want to rip your hair out. Oh my gosh, I totally agree. So when Olga poos en route, she's not meant to poo en route, but every single morning before I went to the BBC, she'd poo en route. So you'd be like, no, and then I'd walk a different way, she wouldn't do it, walk the same way. Oh, there we go, exactly the same tree, bums out. It's like, no, don't do that, babes. I need to get to work. When you're running a bit behind schedule and you're like the clock's ticking and your bum won't sit down, it's like, go. So yeah, work through those times. Love that advice. Agon, what do you think?
I'd say top advice for me would be patience. Have faith in the dog as well, because there's a reason why they passed. I think only the best of the dogs actually passed the qualification, so they have it in them to be a guide dog. You just have to be patient with them. And the best thing that's ever happened to me with Carmen, when I finally realised, oh my god, this dog is... There's two moments, actually. Once where she literally saved my life, and once where she gave me confidence where I was really anxious. The latter was at Euston Station. To blind people, Euston Station is a bit of a... Every time someone mentions Euston Station to a blind person... Oh my god,
yeah. I nearly groaned!
They're like, oh god, the assistants are terrible there. They never hardly ever show up, and when they do show up, it's like 10 minutes late. And so I got off. This was the very first train ride I was doing with Carmen, on my own with no one else. I went to the station, got off the train. Assistants nowhere to be seen. I was standing there like, oh my god, what am I going to do? I'm going to die here.
It's my last days.
This is
your brain
overthinks.
Yeah. But, and then Carmen just randomly, because she was sitting next to me, this was at the point, she just randomly stood up and started walking. And I just sort of followed her, and she walked right up to someone, and they were like, "Are you right, mate?" I was like, "Yeah, could you just show me the way out, please?" So she almost just led me to someone who could help, which I thought was quite amazing of her to do.
Oh my god, yeah.
And the second time, where she literally saved my life, was on the way back from uni, where I was about to cross a road. I was about a quarter of the way across the road when a car came literally tearing around the corner really fast. And Carmen literally span me around, basically, and got me back on the curb really fast. And I was like, oh my god, like, thanks.
Yeah.
She probably was doing it to preserve herself as well as me, but I still appreciate it. Yeah, I was just hanging on, boomerang around.
Though, don't you think in the training when you're sort of crossing the road, but then they drive not at you with a car, but there's that whole training thing where you're like, oh, you're gonna stop, and Olga had always stopped, and that is just, you just have your faith in them at that point, and I guess
Yeah.
she's just really practicing on her training there, wasn't she, at that moment. But I just sometimes I look at Olga and I think, you are the best thing that's ever happened to me, dog.
Yeah.
You are just
Exactly the
brilliant.
same.
Yeah. Don't you think, Mario?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What about your best moments and top tips?
My best moments. Oh my goodness. Just put me on the spot.
It's days to days.
There's just been so many. I mean, what I would probably say to, a new guide dog owner is that it is a huge transition, especially if you were using the cane before. Persist, like Kevin said. There's going to be bad days, good days. It's going to be really emotional, good and bad, but just, carry on. And
keep smiling.
I'd say controlling Carmen's speed was the hardest thing for me to do, and it was one of the most stressful things ever because, she just wasn't understanding what I was telling her. I think she was getting frustrated because I was like, steady, right, stop, be steady, right, now go. And she'd go, zoom, shoot off again. I'm like, no, not that fast. So it was a very hard and very stressful thing to manage. But once we got it locked down, it just became fine. It was like, I don't even have to talk to Carmen now, which I quite like while I walk. I don't know if it's recommended or if everyone does it, but I just do hand gestures a lot of the time. So if I pop to the shop, sometimes I just put my earphones in, put my music on full, Carmen know where she's going, and I just do hand gestures for left or right, just little flicks of the wrist, and she interprets that and knows where she's going. So that's
that's the partnership. That is so cool. You just can't do that. You have to do everything by the book at the start, but it's just knowing.
I'm really interested, guys. What kind of misconceptions of guide dogs that the public have would you like to sort of correct? What are things that the public say to you that you just go, no, it's not quite like that?
The fact that they, once they're trained, that's it, and they'll just have their training forever. Because I've just had a couple of times where people don't understand why they can't stroke them if they're not in training anymore. We get trained to train them.
I often have.
People don't know that.
No, they don't. And I often have times where people say, "Oh, is she in training? Because you don't look blind."
Yeah, I've had that.
That's so weird.
Wow.
What are the other misconceptions that you've had, Mariam?
Like I said earlier, that they are so well behaved, and like you said, that I'm the trainer. I think in my very early days, I was just about to go into a shop, and someone came out of the shop and was very excited to see Chara, and sort of came bounding towards her, and she got excited because they were excited, and I said, please don't touch her, she's a working guide. I was like, oh, is she training her? And I said, no, she's qualified and I'm completely blind. And I'm like, really? And they were
you're
really
functioning.
Yeah,
you're functioning. You're a person. What?
Yeah, I know. And then because I said, please don't touch her, they didn't touch her, but they continued to talk to her in a really high-pitched baby voice. And I was like, yeah, when I said don't touch her, I mean, don't talk to her either.
Yeah. What about you? Have got any misconceptions?
There's one misconception that I didn't have myself, but I heard from someone, and it was quite a funny story. I can't remember where I heard it from, but someone took their guide dog to a train station and asked for them to take them to a platform 3 or something like that. And the assistance person apparently wrote number 3 on a bit of cardboard, showed it to the dog, and said, take them to number 3. So guide dogs can't read.
No.
It's a misconception.
So silly. Yeah, they're not a sat nav. They're very clever. But yeah.
No, that's you've got to be almost a navigator. They're the guys that get you around the obstacles, but the dog is only trying to go in a straight line and avoid obstacles. If you don't tell them where they're going to find the nearest tree or the nearest park. You've got to keep them, focused. And I had that once where I asked someone for help to cross a busy road, and she just looked at me about, well, you haven't got a very good dog then. I'm like, well, what? What? You're like, I was like, how's the dog going to tell me to cross the road? Come on, let's think about this one. And then, okay then. And they sort of begrudgingly took me across the road, and I had to explain that they are, they're trained not to go out in front of a car, but they're still a dog at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's
Oh my
amazing.
gosh, yeah. It's 24/7 training. I mean, I remember at school, I won't name any names, but someone's guide dog had a baguette every lunchtime, and that dog was definitely not keeping up their training. So yeah, it's constant.
Gosh.
This is a partnership forever, and it's hard at times, but I think I can speak on behalf of all of us that we wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah,
Definitely.
agreed.
Thank you so much for talking to me, people, you beauties. I really hope
so much for
Thanks for having us on. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, thanks. It's been
Honestly.
amazing.
Yeah, I can't wait to go on PSN Blind. Again, I'm plugging it, but they're just beautiful humans. We actually haven't met yet in person. Me and Kev have, but me, Agon and Mariam haven't yet met in person. So after the craziness has sort of died down with the world, we will be meeting, and so will our guide dogs. So
That'll be exciting.
it will. Really excited. Yeah, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and tell me in the comments down below if you have any things that you want to say about your guide dog, or any misconceptions that people have had when you're walking in the street and you're holding onto that harness. Any things that you would want people to know that they don't know. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you next week for a new one. Bye!